Myself and a group of Sage Circle members from my community got together in person right outside Atlanta, Georgia, to clear Lake Lanier. It was fantastic. It was very interesting, and it didn't quite go exactly as we thought it would, but it ended up being absolutely wonderful, and I want to tell you about it today. So last week, the Sage Method had its first retreat, in-person retreat, and it was powerful and it was wonderful and it was absolutely amazing. I am already working hard at scheduling the next one. I'm really hoping for fall because it was an incredible event. Here's what I love. This is what I'm grateful for every single day. The Sage Circle community. The Sage Circle is the Sage's membership community. And there are people from all over the globe that come together, all walks of life, all different spiritual and religious paths. We all come together filled with unconditional love. We meditate together. We do card readings together. People are learning remote viewing and they're learning mediumship and they're learning all this kind of stuff together. It's like another sort of spiritual family. You know what I mean? But we do everything online, and we do our meditations through Zoom, we do the card readings through Zoom, et cetera, et cetera. And this was the first time we were able to get together. Now, granted, we have members all over the world, but the members that were able to show, there's about 30 of us that came to Lake Lanier. And the retreat was, a number of days. We did a bunch of activities that were really uplifting and fun. But the very first activity we did was to clear Lake Lanier. Now, this lake is known as the deadliest lake in America, or the most haunted lake in America. It has a very dark history. Back in the 50s, this is a man-made lake, and they came in and they flooded communities. I mean, they flooded towns. There were people who lost their lives, their homes. It's a heartbreaking thing. And when you get to this lake and you start talking to some of the locals, which I did, they all use the same word: sorrow. They don't feel fear with the lake. And now the lake has a history of, pretty significant history of accidents and deaths, et cetera, et cetera. I even met someone at the lodge that we were staying at who at 15 years old drowned and died for 3 minutes from drowning in this lake. Luckily she didn't, because she was an amazing soul and I got to chat with her for a bit. Absolutely wonderful. But the lake is known, especially if you talk to the locals, they all know it's haunted. That's all there is to it. So I went there, and I'm going to be upfront about it. I went there thinking, yay, we're going to be able to completely clear this lake, and it's going to help the living people in the community, not have as many accidents and deaths. It's going to help the souls that are stuck from whoever knows where. I didn't really even check into it before I went in to the lake. We're going to be able to help those souls cross over and go home. And I was very excited about it. A couple days before we got there, because as you can imagine, when you put on a retreat that's full of so many incredible events, it's a lot of planning. So we were really focused on planning this retreat. And we got there, actually a couple days before we got there, I talked to my main guide, Peter, and he said, you're going to do a clearing on the lake, but you're not going to be able to completely clear the lake. Now, this is a little bit heartbreaking for me right out of the gate, because I always want to go in and help, and anyone that's stuck and cross over, and can we benefit or raise the vibration of the area around it for the living people that are experiencing the energy from this lake as well. But Peter was very specific, and he said you can't clear this entire lake. You just can't do it. And when I asked him why, because this happens, and this is part of why we do crossing over work and Otherside chats, and we're opening up conversations about helping souls in the in-between crossover to the other side, because not every single situation is going to end up being exactly what you want. So I'm now heading to this retreat with 30 other people from the Sage community who, by the way, just amazing souls. I was submersed in unconditional love for just a number of days, and it was so healing and wonderful. But here we are, we're all heading there with this intent to clear this lake, right? But we can't clear the lake because they're giving us that instruction. So I asked further about this. What do you mean we can't clear it, and why? Well, the towns around this lake have identified with this lake as haunted. It's part of their identity. There's actually healing and growth that has happened in these different communities as a result of the knowledge of the lake being haunted. So in a very kind of sideways way, people are continuing to carry, the recognition and respect for what happened in order for this lake to be created. So I get there and I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll explain to the community, what Peter said about, yes, we can help the souls that are stuck here to cross over, which is wonderful. That's always the end goal. But we do need to take into consideration that removing all of the energy of this identity of this lake is not necessarily something that can be done, because the people around the lake connect with the lake in that way. So I get there, and before the retreat ever starts, I got there a couple days before, and I was talking to a couple different local people, and one person said there was a particular county. This lake has 3 different counties that it goes into, and one of the counties was really bad, like really extreme racism years back, and it was just dark. It was the type of county that you step in there on the wrong day and it could mean your life. I mean, it was a really, really dark area. And that county over time has grown, has healed, still has a ways to go. We all do. But compared to what it was back in the 50s, from what I understand, a lot of the residents in that particular county are very proud of how far they've come, and they are working to continue moving in that direction of love and compassion and releasing hate, etc., etc. Now, to rip out the identity of the source that's giving people not giving people the drive to do it, but that's standing there. The lake is next to this county as a representation of what had happened, right? It's like a cemetery. It's like gravestones. It's like something visual that's right there to say, hey, remember, we need to work toward love, get away from hate. And that's part of what the lake was doing. I found it really fascinating talking to people there, finding out that they were all using the same word, sorrow. They felt sorrow off the lake. So their identification with this lake is that it was haunted in such a way that it held sorrow. Sometimes that energy can be an uncomfortable but purposeful and meaningful reminder to do better, And don't slide backwards, don't go backwards, go forward. Move toward where you want to be, which is love, not hate. So I'm starting to understand this. I'm talking to a few locals there a couple days before people got there. I'm feeling the energy off the lake. I'm feeling like there's a couple of spirits in there that were dark and heavy and, unkind. But for the most part, the majority of spirits, and actually the majority of it was kind of that energy of pain from the past. And a lot of the spirits were, connecting in such a way that they still felt the heaviness of everything that happened, which was so dark and so sad. So I'm there. I've talked to a few locals. I'm now understanding why Peter has told me you can cross over the souls that you can cross over, but don't take away the identity of this lake for people. This is, their reflection, really. And it's a part of their growth that, by the way, is a beautiful thing happening for people around the lake. The participants get there, the Sage Circle members, oh, wow, did we have fun. We had so much fun. But they get there, and the very first night we do check in, and we were out by the lake. We were under the moon. It was just incredible. And we checked in and we got to meet everyone and exchange our hellos. And then we jumped right into clearing the lake. It was the very first thing we did in the retreat. And I told them exactly what came through, is that we can't take the identity away. We can help any souls that are in there that are stuck. We can move the energy that will be allowed to move. And that's exactly what happened. What I will say is, when you gather 30 people together who are wired to care and who are wired with such deep compassion and amazing ability to love unconditionally. And then those 30 individuals come together as a group to clear something as big as this lake. It was powerful to watch. And, you know, I got choked up a few times just being in that energy because it was so beautiful to watch. And the group, we talked through it a little bit. We didn't necessarily focus too much on the history because you can look the history up. You can find it anywhere. There's a lot of people that have covered it. I think there's even a small film company that's like making a movie on this lake. And we didn't have to necessarily focus on the history of it. We had to focus on the moment and the spirits that were in there now because the sorrow was heavy. It was very heavy. So we talked through this and then we spread out. People walked into different areas to where they kind of felt drawn to. And we stood literally on the edge of this lake and as a group together did this clearing. Now, I personally didn't do any of the clearing. That's how powerful it was to bring together these members, these Sage Circle members from all over. They flew in, came together, and united and lifted up the vibration. It was really powerful to watch. But here's what I witnessed. I'm standing back in an area and I'm just watching over, you know, and I'm also kind of making sure that everyone is safe and I'm doing, you know, ground clear protect GCP. And I'm watching over everyone, making sure that they're all safe. And I'm witnessing love pouring out of them and really strong intent pouring out as well of helping souls that were stuck. There had to be over 200. I mean, there was a lot. And so I got it. I understood. I was like, this is why we're here together. This is what we're doing together. And we're not overwhelmed clearing, 200 souls out of this lake because we're together as a group doing it. There's no one person having to take this on themselves and the responsibility. I felt as if all of the retreat participants didn't carry the weight of the responsibility on themselves. They linked in very quickly to the group effort of this, put their intent, their love out, and then it happened. It absolutely happened. I watched a large ripple. So if you can imagine, this lake is really big. If it's going to span, 3 different counties, it's really big. And I watched as the energy just went out far enough that I visually could not see, but I knew it was going out far enough, and it swooped under and it lifted up. And toward the end of the clearing, I watched this. It was kind of like a giant energy, like fountain that came up right up the middle, and it was energy. And I just watched so many people that were stuck release and go home. Release and go home. It was as if this group together turned this giant, body of water that was like a thick sludge that was hard for people to move through in spirit form into this crystal clear lake again, where people could lift up and easily out of it. A lot of spirits were connected to the land, and all of the spirits were connected in some way, shape, or form to the intent on how they passed. Popular question: if this lake is so haunted, anyone that passed in the recent years, would they be stuck in it? No, that's not the case for this one. This was not the type of haunting or energetic situation where people were stuck and could, if you passed in an accident on the lake, then you wouldn't be able to cross over. People, most everyone who passed very recently were all able to cross over. Most of the individuals that were stuck in spirit form were stuck from years back, from that heavy period of time where there was really such hatred and darkness that was happening. That hatred and darkness is a heavy, low vibrational energy. Imagine that hatred and the intent filling up the water, like that energy pouring into the water and the land around the water. Think of how sludgy, how slow moving, and how murky that would be energetically. So just kind of imagine what that would look like. That's what the lake felt like. And I watched as these three beautiful living souls stood there and put their intent into this and helped people cross over. It was really beautiful. So there's a lot of different things. I do know that there was a couple participants that saw things that almost felt interdimensional. And I think that they were. I didn't get to witness that myself, but there was a number of people that got to check in with each other after to say, you saw that? I saw that too. You saw that? That was really a wonderful thing to see. And then some people shared their experiences, and it was really neat to hear other people say, yeah, that was what I picked up on too. It was a wonderful time of coming together and, you know, sharing our experiences with each other and knowing we did that together. And it was powerful. And it was really, really wonderful. So moving forward, what does this mean? Well, number one, I'm having more retreats, hands down, because that retreat was so healing, so fun, so impactful for everyone. It was, it was, I'm having another retreat. We'll say that. We're going to clearly start gathering more frequently in person. But moving forward, being that we couldn't completely clear all the energy, it's as if what was left that we could not clear was the memories, was the history, was the knowledge of what had happened, how far people have come as a result of that. Also, the reflection on how much farther we have to go around that as well. So all of that connected to the energy and the vibration needed to keep that alive stayed there. But what crossed over was every single soul that no longer needed to be there. So the sorrow coming off the souls, coming off the low vibration, coming off the history and the knowledge, we released the souls, kept the low vibration just in the category of knowledge, with the intent that people aren't hurt. We can cross our finger that living people aren't hurt as often, if not perfectly, no more deaths. That'd be fantastic. I know that's a big ask for any lake, and especially one that big that has that many recreational activities, but shout out to the Otherside. If we could lower the incident rate, that would be fantastic. But the history is still there. The low vibration is still there, just in the knowledge and the impact that that had on society and the people that interact with that lake and with the other people in the society, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the souls, they went home. And I got to watch 30 amazing living souls from the Sage community lift these stuck souls up and make sure that they were able to go home and to complete their journey. Just doesn't get any better than that. Just doesn't get any better than that. And you know why I care, right? Because ghosts are people too.